like to welcome you to BeMoreNews.com, the news before the news, where we uncover the truth. Monday, May 23rd, 2011. Anthony McCarthy, how are you, sir?
I am blessed.
Good. Please explain to us what is going on in this 2011 citywide election.
Well, it's really interesting, Donnie. If you look at all of the candidates who are in the race and who are talking about getting in the race, it's going to be a very competitive summer. Now, the mayor has an enormous amount of money, $1.5 million or $1.2 million. At this point, it's going to raise a whole lot more money, but it's not going to just be money that defines this race. The city finds itself in a very tepid position with a lot of opportunity, but a lot of challenges. And it's going to be the person who can define solutions and can connect with the people of Baltimore that's going to ultimately win this election.
Have we heard enough from the mayoral hopefuls thus far?
No, we haven't. It's all really just beginning. There's only been one or two personalities that have been dominating the entire conversation. But as more and more people get in this race, it's going to heat up. And I have a feeling, unfortunately, it's going to get ugly because essentially they're going to have to draw contrasts. And the only way they're going to do that is to point out the differences between them and their opponents. So it's going to be a tough, hot, long summer. But it's going to be fun.
What are the issues that people are talking about?
Well, I think people want jobs. I think people in our city, our unemployment rate is double that of the state of Maryland. People in our city want a clear, defined plan at how you're going to create jobs, how you're going to reinvigorate the economy and small businesses. More than that, though, they want to know, how can I personally get myself employed? People have been out of jobs for 2-3 years, wanting someone to lead the way. So there's got to have to be a lot of conversations about job creation, taxes. People are sick and tired of our taxes being double that of the jurisdictions around us. And when you say things like cutting the property tax is going to bankrupt the city of Baltimore, while all of your opponents are saying, look, we're going to cut property taxes in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Property taxes, probably if we polled people on the streets, Donnie, the taxes would be the #1 issue that people are wanting to hear more about in this election.
Public education.
Education.
Baltimore City Public School headquarters, CEO announced some $125,000 jobs.
Well, I think that people want to see chops at school headquarters. They want to hear that our children really are being graduating at a better rate. They do want to hear that our teachers are being taken care of. But I will tell you, education will always be an important issue. This election, though, will be dominated by economic issues.
Well, at what point do we look at people's track records, particularly let's just stick with education there? How does the citizen gauge whether or not this candidate or that candidate has been historically serious about Baltimore City Public Schools?
Well, lucky for us, Donnie, all of these candidates who say they have a record, all you have to do is go online and look them up. You can look up their legislative votes, you can look at their votes on the city council, and you can find out exactly not where they stand during the election, but what they've done before the election on education and all these other issues. And I think we have to get tough. If people have had a different record than the record they're running on, we've got to point that out.
Can you speak at all to the racial demographics of Baltimore City today?
Well, two things. Black women still set the pace for voters in the city. Black women will determine who the next mayor of the city of Baltimore will be. Whites vote at extraordinary numbers in the city of Baltimore. Black males hardly show up at the polls. Other demographics like the Hispanic community and other communities in our city don't participate at large enough numbers to make a difference. Black women and whites will make a decision about who the next mayor of the city of Baltimore will be.
Okay. Care to make any predictions?
No, but I think what I will say is that we have a lot of outstanding candidates who've stepped forward to offer themselves up to voters. I believe fairly quickly it will become a 1 or 2 man race against the mayor. 1 or 2 candidates will kind of jump to the forefront. I think Stephanie Rawlings-Blake will always be a front runner. She'll always be the candidate that the other candidates need to target. The race will narrow very quickly, and people will start focusing on 2 or 3 challengers to take on the mayor.
Well, let me not let you off the hook that easily. Out of 10 voters, how many would you say, out of 10 super voters, how many are white?
Out of 10 super voters, how many are white? In the city of Baltimore, it's more than half. It's more than half.
So if we have 5 black candidates splitting up 4.5 plus
I
votes,
knew you were going to ask this question.
I mean, what's the logical person to think?
Well, I think that two things. I think that this is a very different race from the race that Martin O'Malley won back in '99.
Yeah, because there were two black
There were
guys in
two
that
blacks
race.
instead of 5 blacks. But listen, Jody Landers is not Martin O'Malley. The voters in our city have become much more sophisticated, and although I think Jody Landers will be a very strong candidate, I don't think we can assume that whites are going to naturally just vote for the white candidate. I think that they've proven
That would be historically different.
but they have proven that they are willing to vote for black candidates.
Well, to that extent, you're absolutely right.
So, I think it's a very different race. The other point I would make is that Jody Landers is going to have to prove his record. He's been out of public life for a very long time. Although I think he'll be compelling as a candidate, it's been a long time since he's gone before the voters. So it'll be very interesting to see how it plays.
Okay, we can still catch you on public radio.
You can still catch me on public radio for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be taking a 4-month leave of absence from my show, The Anthony McCarthy Show, and I'm going to have great guest hosts over the course of the summer sit in for me during this campaign.
Good deal. Thank you very much for your time, Anthony.
It's always great to be with Be More News, the news before the news.
Where we uncover the truth.
Great seeing you.